Hello and welcome to my Flosstube. My name is Carmen. This is Cardamom Pins and this is Flosstube number 5 or 6. I don't know. It'll be in the title. I would like to extend a very warm welcome to everybody who is joining me today, whether you be a returning subscriber or a new friend, and an extra special welcome to my mom, who recently let me know that she found my Flosstube. So that doesn't make me self-conscious at all. Apparently it wasn't that hard to find me on the internet. Anyways, Mom, you can stay, but you have to promise not to embarrass me in front of my friends, okay? They think I'm cool right now, and if they find out I'm not, this could all go away for me, so just be cool. Anyways. It's fine, Mom, you can stay. It's all good. Anyway, so this is a Flosstube that is gonna be all about stitching today. I have a pile of finishes to share with you. I think I have 7 finishes from the last month. Not all of them are big things, like some of them are kind of small, but still. I have been a busy little bee in the last month. I also have kitted up a few projects. I have some really exciting future plans that I'm really happy to share with you soon. And I also did some shopping and I got some really cool books. So this is gonna be a fun one. I say that at the beginning of every video, but whatever. All Flosstubes are fun. Stitching is fun. Okay, so I'm just gonna dive right into it with my first and biggest finish, which you have seen before, but you haven't seen it finished yet. And that is Charlotte Ramsay by Modern Folk Embroidery. I finished this, I think it was May 2nd or May 3rd, and I started it in the beginning of March. So it was about a month and a half. I didn't work on it every single day, but I did work on it a lot. And it is about 2 times as big as I thought it was gonna be. But you know what? The more the merrier. And the bottom half was definitely the extremely fun half to stitch. So this was my submission for the JacobSleeperSAL. It is an ongoing SAL, and I'll talk about some of the other people who've done the SAL in a minute. But yeah, basically you take a chart that is less well-known or less commonly stitched by Jacob of Modern Folk Embroidery, and you stitch it, and that's the only rule. So this was something that I had seen for the first time at the retreat, the Jacobpalooza retreat, and I'd never seen it before, and I immediately fell in love with it, and here I have it stitched. So the top half of this sampler is all letters. It's all alphabets and initials, and whew, I mean, I don't mind stitching alphabets, but you know, there got to be a point, like once I got to the eyelet row, I was like, okay, girl, how many relatives do you have? That's enough. I want to get to the fun stuff. But I ate my vegetables. I did it all. And that eyelet row, oh my goodness. I had previously said that I really like eyelets. I still think I like eyelets, but there were so many of them. It took me 4 days of stitching just to do that row of eyelets. And actually one of these two, it's 2 different colors of floss, but one of them I had to frog, and frogging eyelets was, I mean, usually I don't really use scissors. I just pull it out with my needle, but I couldn't with this. It was just like so tightly in the fabric. I don't know why. And it's also tonal. So I had to use scissors, and it was, oh my goodness, I was so scared. I've never been so scared with a cross-stitch piece, because I mean, the thread that I was cutting looked just like the linen thread, and I was like, oh my goodness, if I cut a linen thread, this is all over for me. Anyways, I was very careful, and I went very slowly, and I managed to frog that letter without any major incidents. But yeah, I had counted, I think there were 338 eyelets or something, and yeah, I was pretty happy to see that row finished. But anyways, and then I got to the fun little people at the bottom, and satin stitch. Oh, it probably doesn't even really show up on camera, but it's so pretty. I need to do more satin stitch in my life. I think those flowers on either side are my favorite part of the sampler. I love it. This is a great piece. I'm super happy to have done this. It's not one that I've seen stitched very much. However, Gwyneth, Curling Stones and X Stitches, has stitched it. So you can check out her Instagram profile too if you want to see somebody else's finish. I think she did it with the Called For DMC. I used a conversion that was made by Hannah of Evertote. This is all Roxy Floss. This is 40 count Spéculoos and all of the Roxy Floss colors that Hannah picked out for me. And I think she nailed it. I love this piece. I'm super proud of it. And now I can talk a little bit more about the other people. Oops, actually, you know what? I'm gonna very prominently display this piece right here because I'm very proud of it. There she is, Charlotte, my friend. So this SAL, it's been, a lot of people started around March, middle of March, beginning of March, just like I did. And people have been using the hashtag. And I thought, in celebration of my finish, that I would also share some of the people's finishes that use the hashtag. And I will insert a clip here about that. Okay, so in no particular order, here are the finishes that I found through the hashtag JacobSleeperSAL on Instagram. So we are going to start with Rebecca, who completed Julebokken, aka the Christmas goat. This is a really fun one that I haven't really seen done very much, so it's great to see it finished. Gorgeous, gorgeous work, stitched on 18 count Aida with the Called For DMC. Congratulations, Rebecca. Next, Chris from Chris B Stitch, who did the hound and the hare. This is not a small piece, so congratulations, Chris, for this finish. It was done on 36 count Cyprium by Picture This Plus and Threadworks Rocky Mountain. And I'm not familiar with this linen, but I really, really like it. So not only am I discovering new charts here, but I'm also discovering new linens. So that's fun for me too. Congratulations, Chris. Next, Sarah from Cross Stitch Sarah, who did the Cranky Owl. This is a classic, super cute piece. I feel like this could be, you know, a weekend project for somebody. I guess it probably depends on the stitcher, but this is a really cute one. I love it. So congratulations, Sarah, on your finish. Next, Mary from A Merry Stitcher decided to one-up all of us and stitch not one, but two pieces for JacobSleeperSAL. So the first one that I saw was her finish, her incredible finish of Love Gains, which was stitched on 37 count Corkscrew Willow by Access Commodities Legacy Linen with 54 tapestry green from Silk and Colors. This is such a beautiful, thoughtful sampler. I really love this one. And yeah, I remember Jacob telling a story about how he came across this particular sampler when I was at Jacobpalooza. So it's a pretty special one. So that's the first congratulations to Mary. But the second one is that she also did Birds from Bernard's Books. I'm not sure what floss she used for this, but it's a really interesting variegated one. So extra big congratulations to Mary for her two JacobSleeperSAL finishes. That is pretty incredible. All right, next we have Lori from Lori A. Smile, who stitched Wings of the Dove. And actually, at first glance, I thought that this was also Birds from Bernard's Books because it has a very similar composition to that, but it's actually a different chart completely. And this is Wings of the Dove, which was stitched on 40 count platinum using Auvert à Soie 103 silks in the color 671. And this was done in memoriam for her two brothers. So it's a really, really beautiful and thoughtful piece and gesture. I love it. So congratulations. It's gorgeous. And you will also notice in this picture that I have on screen that there is a needle in her fabric with a little bit of thread on it. Well, those 4 empty spools, that little bit of extra thread that she has on her needle there is the very last of the 103 that she had at the end of this project. So she just barely made it with her thread, which is incredible. That must have felt amazing, but it also must have been very scary at the end there. Anyways, congratulations, Lori. And again, such a thoughtful and beautiful piece. Congratulations. Next, we have Natty, Stitchy Natty, who wins the prize for the teeny tiniest, itty bittiest little piece of all. She stitched a swan from the Bonnie Swans, and okay, everybody, hold on to your pants. This was stitched 1/1 on 56 count linen. This was stitched on a one-of-a-kind from Mislaid Pages with Soie sur Fin in the color 585. Let me repeat that. This was stitched 1/1 on 56 count linen. Bravo! Bravo, Natty! Oh my goodness. And of course it was stitched in one day too, so extra snaps for Natty. Everybody congratulate Natty in the comments. This is incredible. And you can see in the picture her fingers, so that gives you context to how miniature this thing actually is. So amazing. Congratulations, Natty. Next, Stephanie from Stephanie D 1223, who did Think Twice. This was stitched on a 44x46 count linen with washed denim floss by Roxy Floss. And this one, when I scrolled through, and I'll include a couple of other pictures here, made my heart stop for a second there, because she encountered a horrific situation that has not yet happened to me, but is one of my greatest fears, which is that she accidentally cut a hole when frogging. She cut a hole in her linen, and I don't know what kind of witchcraft she's capable of, but somehow she managed to fix it and everything is fine. So congratulations on your finish, but also congratulations on that very, very close save. I have no idea how you did that, but it's incredible. So congratulations, Stephanie. Next, Guylaine from Handcraft by Guylaine finished the first flowers. This was stitched on 40 count platinum with DMC in the color 817. And looking at this, this looks slightly familiar, so I must have seen this somewhere at some point, but I don't really know this one. But it's really nice. It's not too big, and I feel like that would be such a nice ornament. So ideas are brewing in my head about Christmas time ornaments. So thank you, Guylaine, for bringing this chart to my attention. And congratulations on your finish on the first flowers. And last, but certainly not least, we have Caroline from We Are Curious Crafters, who stitched Gerritje Broekhuis on 36 count vintage sand dune by Lakeside Linens, and she made her very own Roxy Floss conversion. We love people who make conversions over here. I think it is a very creative and maybe sometimes a brave thing to do, to kind of take agency over a piece and put your own spin on it, maybe take from stash, and it looks so gorgeous. I might have to ask you what that conversion was, because I love this. And actually looking at this finish, it kind of makes me think that the next JacobSleeperSAL project that I choose for myself might be this one. And if I'm not mistaken, I think Gerritje made 2 samplers. So maybe I'll take a look at the other one and choose between the 2. But anyways, congratulations. This is a beautiful piece, and of course it's right up my alley because it's a Dutch sampler, so I'm easy to please. If it's a Dutch sampler, I'm a fan. So congratulations to all 9 of the people whose finishes I found. These are 10 beautiful projects, and thank you for joining me in this stitch along. I was kind of worried I might be the only one, but I'm glad that I wasn't alone, and it was super fun for me to discover some of these charts, many of which I had maybe seen once or twice, but had kind of looked over. They're beautiful, beautiful pieces. You guys did great work. Thank you for participating. And with that, let's go back to the regular Flosstube. So, I know that not everybody who was interested in participating in the SAL is necessarily on Instagram or wants to share on Instagram. And also there may be people who shared on Instagram where I just missed your post. So I have an email address that I would love to invite you to share your progress or your finishes with me. It is cardamonpins@gmail.com. I made that email address a few months ago, immediately got locked out of the account for suspicious activity, and took me months, but I did manage to get that email back. I didn't want to make another one. It was perfect, cardamonpins@gmail. It's perfect. So if you need to email me for any reason, even if it has nothing to do with the SAL, there you go. You can email me there, and I'll have it in the description as well as on screen. So I'm kind of always stitching a modern folk embroidery piece, so I thought that it would be nice if in my future floss tubes, whenever I talk about a modern folk embroidery piece that I'm working on, that I also then use that opportunity to share what other people have been working on in that SAL, because it's ongoing. And I don't have another sleeper that I have in mind, but I do want to do this again. It was really fun, and it's also really fun to discover some of these unknown charts. So I invite anybody who wants to email me their pictures of not just their finishes, but any of progress that you want to share with me. And I'm happy to share that in videos. If you would like me to shout, I will, make sure that I have permission before I share anybody's stuff. But yeah, I think that could be fun. And, I've been watching Sarah's Stitchy Spot, and she's just so good at building community and lifting people up, the people who watch her. And I don't know, I'm just really inspired by that, and I want to be more like Sarah. So I guess this is my attempt to emulate Sarah in that way, by also celebrating some of your finishes and your progress on some of these pieces. So I'm gonna move on from this portion of my video now and talk about my next finishes, because I have 6 more to share with you. So I finished this on May 2nd or 3rd, I can't remember. Today's May 31st, and it was my second finish of the year. And if you watch my previous videos, you'll know that I got really into knitting at the beginning of the year, and so a lot of my time ended up going towards that, and I just wasn't stitching as much. And I kind of realized, I was like, oh my goodness, I'm 1/3 of the way through the year and I've only finished 2 things. And I know it's quality, not quantity. It's not like a competition, but I had just kind of sort of recently made my 2023 finish parade. I think I had like 26 finishes or something like that. And also jumping between knitting and stitching, I felt like I was losing my momentum. And anyways, I just really in that moment needed the instant gratification of a cross stitch finish, which you can only do if you're either close to finishing something or if you start a new project that isn't that large. So I don't have a lot of whips. I'm somebody who stitches mostly monogamously, so I decided to choose something that was not too huge. And in my last video, which was kind of a vlog of my trip to the Netherlands, I had made a call to my viewers to ask if anyone could identify this one chart that I had seen at the Handwerk Boutique in Drenthe in the Netherlands, and several people responded. So first of all, thank you very much to all of those people who recognized the sampler and let me know what it was. So it was this, which is the Rose Cottage Garden, wait, what's it called? Rose Cottage Sampler Pinkeep by Stacy Nash. And I made my own conversion with Roxy Floss, all from Stash, which I'm very proud of. It feels really nice to make your own conversions, and I think it worked out super well. And the linen that I chose is Parchment by Fibre on a Whim, which is something I had on Stash as well. And I love my conversion. I think it looks great. This is kind of tone on tone. You can't see it too well in the camera, but it is there. And so she had initials of her family members, I think, and I decided to put my own family members' initials in there. Not my own personally, but I put my mom's initials here and my dad's initials there, and then their parents here. And I included everybody's maiden name initials. So that's cool. I don't know. I think Stacy Nash had her own family's initials in there, and I was like, do I want to put Stacy Nash's initials? I don't know. Anyway, so I just decided to put my family's in there instead. And something I did at the bottom here, by the way, this bottom is completely full coverage. I think it was 1,200 stitches or so. I did the math because I'm a dork. Anyways, you might kind of be able to see that that blue, I mean, I used a slightly variegated floss, and you can tell, especially around here, that it kind of goes in a how do I do this? It goes in a bit of a diagonal, and I totally copied that idea from Carrie, who is the dyer behind Roxy Floss, because I saw in one of the Evertote floss tubes that I can't remember the piece that she was working on, but it was something similar to this, where there was like a pond or something at the bottom, and she used a variegated floss, well, a hand-dyed floss, and she was stitching diagonally to kind of make it look, I guess, less flat, like maybe there's a little bit of a wave going there. And I loved that idea. Now this blue is Thin Air, which was actually one of the holiday countdown flosses. And it's not a super, super variegated floss, so you don't see it super well. It's pretty subtle, but I really like that idea. And then, you know, for the grass, I've seen people do that for grass, where they'll, instead of stitching back and forth, they'll stitch up and down. So it looks like you're getting different blades of grass. I didn't do that for the grass, I just went back and forth, so you can totally see that there are some lines there in the grass. And yeah, I couldn't be happier with this. This was 6 days straight of monogamous stitching, and it was a project I picked up and could not put it down. And like, I was at work and all I could think about was getting home so I could get back to this. Like, this was an enjoyable stitch. And the really nice thing about it being Stacy Nash is not only is Stacy Nash a wonderful designer, but she sells, I don't know if all of them, but she sells a lot of her charts on Etsy as PDFs. So I bought a PDF, instant download, pulled from Stash, and I was able to start this immediately. I think if I have a choice between a PDF and a physical chart, I prefer this physical chart, but PDFs are really nice because, I mean, you get them right away. You don't have to wait for something to come in the mail. You don't have to pay shipping. Anyways, so that's my second finish, which I will put here. Oh, who doesn't love a red house? Actually, I think this is, no, it's not my first red house. Never mind. I have stitched a red house before. Okay, so my next finish, which is also a fully finish, is Laura's Frisian Sampler by Modern Folk Embroidery. If you don't know the story about this, Laura Duet of Brenda and the Cereal Starter went to JacobPalooza. She brought this sampler with her, which was a gift to her from Jacob. He quickly charted it, and then it was sold that weekend too, which was the weekend I went to, and all of the proceeds of the sales go towards a really good cause in London, Ontario, and it's a PDF download that you can get on the Evertote website. I will link everything I mention. I will have it all linked in the description. But yeah, I had gotten the floss pack and I did this, and then I also did the hem stitch, which is a skill that I learned at that retreat. And I had made a little video for Instagram of me doing the hem stitch, and I got a comment from Simone of Idee with a tip for the next time that I do it. So if you look at the corner here, I pulled my threads out all the way. So I don't know how clear it is on camera, but you can kind of see that there are threads missing in that corner. So she had suggested that next time I just snip the threads here, and so that I only end up pulling the threads out within the cross-stitched area, which would end up making the corner like a little bit smoother and neater looking. So I definitely want to try that next time I do a hem stitch. Just a small extra step, but I think it would make a nice difference, you know, those little details. So thank you, Simona, for that tip. I will be doing that next time. And this is a really chaotic sampler. Okay, so there's these two deers here. It's funny because like the stitcher, like clearly, you know, she just ran out of a color and randomly would switch colors, and I don't know how much thought went into what colors went where, but there are these two deers. This deer is a little bit more complete, and then this deer, if you look at it, there are these extra little stitches here, and clearly that's supposed to be a tail, and either she made a counting error and skipped a stitch, or maybe there was some stitch loss, but there's a little gap. It doesn't quite connect to the body. And, you know, the 12-year-old boy that lives in my brain saw that and was like, the deer is pooping. anyways, I might cut that out of the video. I don't know if the internet needs to know how immature I am. Anyways, it's definitely a tail, not poop. Anyways, we're gonna move on. So that was finish number 3, and it's a fully finish. So happy with that too. And she is gonna go, here, I'll have her this way. That looks more nice and complete. Okay, so then the next 4 finishes all go together, and they're all smalls. And in order to explain them, I have to kind of skip ahead a little bit and talk about my plans. So today, the day that I'm filming this, is May 31st. So tomorrow is June 1st, which means I need to A, pay rent, and also there is a SAL that is starting tomorrow. And I mentioned this in my last video, but I didn't actually give any information about it. Anyway, so the SAL is to stitch GH 1857 by Susanna, and the SAL is called #GH 1857 Sampler SAL. It is hosted by Jody's Stitching Adventure and Susie Q Runs with Needles, which, side note, 10 out of 10 Instagram handle. So yes, they are hosting this SAL, and I already had this all kitted up and ready to go, so it was just the kick I needed to finally bite the bullet and start it. But this book doesn't just contain a gorgeous reproduction sampler, it also contains 5 smalls. So I had a piece of linen that was reserved for this occasion for months and months. And you know, it is a big sampler. You do need a fat quarter if you're stitching on 40 count like I am, and you have 2-inch margins, but then you have like a little strip on the bottom of extra fabric. So I decided to take my fat quarter, and I did a lot of math and measuring and remeasuring and remathing, and I determined that I had enough scrap linen to stitch 4 of the 5 smalls. The only one that I didn't end up doing was this mattress, just because there are 6 pieces and they all need a margin, and so you actually need a bit more fabric for that one, which is kind of a bummer because I think it was the one I was most excited to do, but it's okay. I will stitch it eventually. I did the other 4, and they are all on this little strip of linen here. So this top one is the drum. I've never done a drum. I have no idea how to finish a drum. She has instructions in here. I think I need to buy some materials. We will see. I'm not quite at the fully finishing step, but I have done the stitching. Well, there's some back stitching I'm supposed to do, but I'll do that later. So that's the drum, and it's like so weird to stitch half a motif and then the other half on the other side. You got to really make sure that everything lines up. Hopefully it does. I think it does. And then you're supposed to put your initials in here, and I have like a weird aversion to putting my own initials into projects, so I ended up just putting Simona's initials in there. Hopefully that doesn't weird her out, but you know, this is just my little nod to the designer, so I put her I also met her, so I feel like maybe it's not that weird to put her initials in there. Anyways, they were in the chart, so you know, I'm sure she's fine with it. So that's that. Also, this is the most modeled part of the fabric. By the way, this is Duxbury by Fox and Rabbit. In a previous video, I had talked about the giant adventure that it was to find the perfect linen for this sampler, and Duxbury is spot on, perfect, exactly what I was looking for. And this is like the most modeled, busiest part of the sampler. Sorry, of the piece of linen, and it ended up getting assigned to the drum. And then this is a pin pillow, and this is a scissor fob, and look at that, it's over 1. I haven't done very much over 1 in my life, and it's always exciting when I get to do it. And every time I have done it, I only have like a teeny tiny little bit to do, so maybe one day when I get to a sampler that has a lot of over 1, I might have to eat my words. Hint, hint, later in the video, I'm gonna talk about a sampler that I'm gonna start soon that has a bunch of over 1. Anyway, so this is a scissor fob, the front and the back. And then I was able to stitch the pieces for the needle book, but I had to stitch them on their side. And in my frame, like, I guess I could have, you know, if I stitched in hand, I could have stitched them, oops, right side up, but just the way that I stitch it and amount of margins that I need to put it in my frame, it didn't work. So I had to like flip my chart around and stitch it on the side, and it was like way more confusing than I thought it was gonna be, but I managed. But what I didn't really realize until I was close to done is because I stitched it at a 90-degree angle, all of my X's are going in the opposite direction of what they normally are, which you would think wouldn't be a big deal, but whenever I look at it, I'm like, something seems a little off. And it's like, yeah, the top legs of my stitches are going that way instead of that way. There's nothing wrong with that. I don't really think there's a right or wrong way. I'm just used to seeing my stitches in a certain way. But anyways, this one, oh, so good. And I don't know how well that's catching on camera, but the lightest blue is a silk. And I'm using all the called for floss, which is all Weeks Dye Works and then one au verre à soie, soie d'Alger. So that's the sparkly silvery one, and it really does show up. And I saw the antique of this a couple months ago when I visited the Netherlands and visited Idee and Simone. And yeah, it really does have that effect. The antique has a glimmer in that really light color. So I'm really happy that I'm able to emulate that in my version. So those are my last four finishes for this video, which brings my grand total to 7. However, these are like pretty small, so it's not like I did 7 gigantic samplers, but that is 1 month of stitching. I mean, I had done probably about 3/4 of this, but yeah, 1/4 of this, and then everything else you see here is what I stitched this month, as well as one whip that I'm going to show you right now, and it is kind of a big project. So I have it in my frame right here. This is an Almanac frame. I bought a bunch of Almanac frames through Facebook Marketplace. Not Marketplace, but that Facebook group about frames. Somebody was selling them for a very good price, so I jumped on it. And she was in Canada, so it worked out. And you know what? I'm going to take the sidebars out so I can show you the whole thing. 1 second. So here is the whole thing. I'm really happy to have this frame and the other frames that I got, because I'm about to get to a point where I'm going to be working on a few big things all at once, so it's nice to have a few now. Anyway, so this is a Quilter's Dream by Modern Folk Embroidery, and as you can see, I'm getting pretty close to a finish. Once I finished the last corner of pink, I don't remember which of the 4 it was, once I finished that, it was all easy after that, because really the challenging part of this pattern is that relief stitching in the 4 corners, because you're not stitching the actual design, you're stitching all of the background, and so it's just a little bit confusing. And I think that's kind of the reason why this project has taken me a while to get back to. I started it at the very end of December of last year, and yeah, that pink area was really slowing me down. You just have to like be concentrating, and then also you have to do the same thing 4 times. So it's like you finish one corner and you're like, I'm done. And then it's like, oh wait, no, I gotta do it again. So definitely worth the effort in the end, because look how gorgeous that is. But then once I finished it, it felt like such a nice reward to get to all of that middle stuff. And actually what I'm doing right now in the center is by far the easiest counting wise. And because it's all of these little blocks, it feels like I have a teeny tiny finish all of the time. And I'm actually exactly halfway through the middle section here. There are 24 little blocks in here, and I have done 12 of them. So that's what I've been working on since finishing these smalls. And I'm getting close to a finish on this. So tomorrow, as I mentioned, I'm going to be starting this sampler. But until then, I'm just going to work on this. And then, I mean, I don't anticipate finishing this today. But after that, I have an idea, because I want this to be done. I feel like it's been languishing for long enough, and it's close enough to a finish that I should just get it finished. So Sarah Stitchy Spot, second time mentioning her in this video. I'm a big fan. She does this thing, and I don't think she came up with it. I believe she mentioned that a recovering monogamous stitcher came up with it, but she does this thing where she chooses a project that's close to being done, and she puts 2 threads a day into it until it's done. and you end up seeing things getting finished that way. And she's definitely an advocate for that method of approaching your projects. So my idea is, as of tomorrow, instead of 2 threads a day, I'm gonna do 1 block a day. Because I think if I had to stop halfway through a block, I would not be able to sleep at night because I'm a little neurotic. But yeah, 1 block, which is probably like 4 or 5 threads. Finish 1 block a day. There are 12 left. I might get a couple of done today. So definitely the next time I have a floss tube, this is going to be done. And oh boy, this thing has more than 23,000 stitches in it. It might look small, but it's huge. I mean, this is 46 count. Oh yeah, I didn't actually tell you what this was stitched on. So this is 46 count biscuit by Roxy Floss. The flosses are also from Roxy Floss. The dark blue is Goody Blue Shoes. The pale blue is Powdered Up. And the pink is Cherry Blossom, which was one of my favorites from the holiday countdown box from last year. And yeah, so the chart only calls for 2 colors, but I decided to do these 4 corners in the light pink instead of the light blue. And something I wanted to mention, because, okay, I'm in Canada, I'm Canadian, I'm not American, but I do know that 4th of July is coming up, as well as some other kind of patriotic holidays in the United States. And I also am aware that patriotic stitching is a very popular category of stitching in the United States. So what does that have to do with this? Well, if you look in the center here, and I will also have the mock-up on screen right now because there's not a ton of contrast, so it might be kind of hard to see. But this middle portion, I only have half of that star in, but it's kind of stars and stripes. And I was looking at it and I was like, I feel like if you chose a white linen and then like I guess the stripes would have to be red. So like what my dark blue is would be red, and then what the light blue is would have to be, oh wait, no, yes. Oh my goodness, I'm getting so confused. The stars, the stars portion, the light blue would have to be your dark blue, and the stripes would have to be your red. And then it would kind of be reminiscent of a United States flag. Like this could be a kind of sneaky patriotic piece if you're into that. Or you could even just do the middle star and have that like as a little pillow or something. Put it in your display of all of your patriotic pieces. Anyways, I'm Canadian, so I'm not really inclined to do that myself, but hey, I'm just shooting ideas. Maybe somebody else would want to do that. If anyone does that, let me know. I'm be super curious to see it. Anyways, yeah, there's something Americana about that center star there. Anyways, I'm very proud of myself for getting past those 4 corners because I was really procrastinating. And now it's just smooth sailing until the end. And that is actually my only whip. I know, I'm kind of lame that way. I sort of pick one thing and I do it till it's done, and then I pick the next thing. I know there are process stitchers and was it project or finish, whatever. There are process stitchers who enjoy the process, and then there are people who like to see things finished. Of course I enjoy the process, but I need to see things finished. If I feel like the end is not attainable, I get really discouraged. So I was actually feeling a little discouraged on that one because I just did not feel like stitching that pink, and I was really procrastinating, but I'm glad I finally got there. I feel like a weight lifted now that I got the hard part over with. So now I'm going to go into my plans, which also kind of coincides with some really exciting news for me. So I have 2 new starts that are imminent. The first one I already talked about. This is starting tomorrow. I'm hoping this Flosstube is up tomorrow. So by the time you see this video, I will have started this, which is so wonderful and exciting. I didn't actually show you my linen and everything. So this is the kit. I'm a little worried that I'm gonna run out of floss because I bought the amount of floss needed for the chart, but then I used a bunch of it for the smalls. And actually, was it Deep Sea I had used for my first project from the year, A Winter Is Past. So I've actually put an order out for another skein of this, as well as another skein of, was it Straw, I think? Because those are the 2 colors that I I did eat into quite a bit and where I don't have any extras beyond what the chart called for. So hopefully I don't have any dye lot issues. We will see. But anyways, these are the gorgeous, gorgeous colors. And this, and then it also has one DMC, which I didn't need for any of the smalls. And I might actually replace this with either Furlande or Brunette by Roxy Floss, just because, you know, I'm a fancy girl, and if I have the opportunity to use a fancy floss, I'm gonna do that. Anyways, I think the brown is only in the like fence at the bottom here, so it's small detail. And then the linen, oh, okay, so I use this so it's not ironed anymore, but yes, this is, like, is that not perfect for this kind of a sampler? I had decided that I was gonna stitch it in this orientation. I've spent a lot of time staring at this linen, deciding which bits, which part would be on the bottom and which part would be on the top. Generally, when I have a piece of linen that is like darker on one side, or darker on the bottom and a lighter on the top, like I will put the lighter on the top and the darker on the bottom, because in my mind it's like the sky is brighter than the land, if that makes any sense. Somehow in my mind that feels more balanced. And it is a great dupe for the antique that is pictured in the book as well as on the cover. And I really wanted it to look dirty and antique-y and old, so I'll have to give this a good iron. I'm sorry, I'm showing you unironed linen on Flosstube. Should have ironed that before starting filming. Oops. Anyways, so that is my first big start, which I've already talked about extensively, and I'm so excited. But the other big start, and this is like, I want to cry. So if you follow me on Instagram, which if you don't, you should. It's the exact same as my YouTube, Cardamom Pins. I have in my bio, aspiring model stitcher. That is my Instagram bio. And it's half a joke and half not a joke. Since I got into cross stitching and Flosstube, I have thought, oh my goodness, the ultimate honor for me would be to model stitch for someone, either a shop or a designer, or I don't know. But I've wanted to model stitch because, anyways, I'll get into it. But when I went to JacobPalooza back in the fall, as I was leaving, I shot my shot. I shooted my shot. Anyways, as I was saying bye to everyone and I was saying bye to Caroline, I was like, hey, if you ever need a model stitcher, let me know. And I thought she was just gonna, you know, smile politely and be like, haha, okay. But she was like, oh, actually, maybe, yeah, I don't know. Anyways, that started a discussion which led to a couple of weeks ago, Caroline reaching out to me and asking me to do a model stitch for Evertote. So what I have been asked to do is a really cool project by Leon from 1894 Schoolhouse samplers. I always forget the year. I always want to say like 1984. That's a whole other thing. Sorry, did I say 1894? It's 1897. Oh my goodness, numbers. 1897 Schoolhouse samplers called Prudence, Love, and Toil. And actually the chart has both the antique and the reproduction. I will let you guess which is which if it's not obvious enough. But yeah, this is what I'm gonna model stitch for Everton! Sorry headphone users. I'm just really excited that I get to do this. Like, what an absolute honor. And also, like, I've been really curious about Leanne as a designer for a couple of reasons. First of all, she has a lot of antiques that she has reproduced. She has a big collection. I've been on her website, like reading her whole bio and learning everything about her in anticipation for this because I'm so excited. But she lives, and this is like public information, so I don't feel bad sharing it, but she lives in Ottawa, which is my hometown, and she works at Upper Canada Village. And if you don't know what Upper Canada Village is, it's like a living museum, like a colonial era. If you've ever been to Colonial Williamsburg, I think it's kind of the same idea. I've never been to Colonial Williamsburg, but from what I understand, I think it's kind of the same idea. And Upper Canada Village has a summer camp for kids that has been running for years and years. And I did that camp 3 years in a row when I was like 11, 12, and 13 or something. And I loved it. It was so fun because you live there for a week and you do all the old timey stuff and you wear costumes and you go out into the city. And fun fact about me is that I was a theater kid in high school, which is maybe embarrassing to admit. But anyways, yeah, being in costume and having to pretend that you live in the whatever 1800s and having tourists take pictures of you and stuff like that, I was thriving. I loved that. Getting to play pretend. Anyway, so she works there as a cook and she lives in my hometown. So I've always felt like this curiosity about her because I have like a kind of a link to her in a way. Like, what are the odds? Anyway, so this is a really cool sampler. And remember earlier when I said that I haven't done a whole lot of over one? Well, I might have to eat my words about over one being fun and easy because this whole text here, as well as her name on the bottom, is over one. It'll be fine. My eyes are fine. It'll be fine. Anyway, so here's the kit. Oh my God, I can't believe it. I'm so excited. So this is Biscuit. So it's the same linen color that I'm doing Quilter's Dream on, but in 40 count. And then these are all the colors. This is the biggest floss pack that I have ever come across. Like, there are 4 skeins of this one color. This is a big project. It's huge. And actually, this is a fat quarter and you have like exactly a 2-inch margin all the way around. So it's pretty much going to be this big. So definitely going to be a long-term project. And when I was talking to Caroline, she was wonderful about it. She was like, I want you to enjoy it. Like, I want you to, because I had asked her if she had like a deadline in mind, if she wanted me to finish it really quickly. And she's like, I want you to stitch it when you feel like stitching it. I want you to enjoy the process. I was like, okay, I'm sure I will enjoy the process. And I don't know, I just want to talk about model stitching for a second. So I mentioned that I've had that in my bio and it's been like a little bit of a life goal since I started stitching. And so I've been stitching for about 1.5 years and I have gotten so much out of it. Not just the pleasure of actually stitching, but you know, having gone to retreat and getting onto YouTube, it's like the community is so wonderful and I've learned so much history and a lot of it has tied back to my own like identity and culture, and it's just been so enriching. And I've just found this like absolute enormous passion that I can't believe because I learned to cross stitch when I was a kid and then I stopped for many years. And there's a part of me that's like, oh, I wish I hadn't had stopped because I'd have so much more knowledge and experience. But anyways, I found it now and I'm so grateful for it. It is the thing that I have dreams about at night. The thing that I think about when I'm at work. The thing that I think about when I'm like, you know, on the bus, just, you know, daydreaming. I love cross-stitching, especially like antiques and the whole history of everything. And I've gotten so much out of it. My life has been so enriched. And I feel like model stitching is kind of the one way where I can give back. Like, I'm not a designer, I'm not a shop owner, I don't dye products like linens or floss or anything like that. I feel like the only way I can contribute really is by talking ad nauseum on the internet about stitching and, you know, kind of contributing to a shop in this case by model stitching for them. Like, that is, I'm so honored to be a part of it. I feel like I'm a part of it. So thank you, Caroline, and thank you, Evertote, and thank you all of the Flosstubers, and thank you all of the people who've commented and been so nice and encouraging. I have no words. I'm so happy to be doing this, and also the fact that I have a bit of a connection to Leon just kind of feels a little bit meant to be. And also, okay, look at that border. I mean, that border is probably going to take me 25 years to stitch because it's huge, but I have no problem with that at all because to me, the border is the shining star of this sampler. and that massive carnation here. Ooh. I think my plan of attack on this, I usually will always start with the border, so I'll do the border first. And then after that, usually I do top down, but I think I'm gonna start with the over one. So I'll do like these two motifs on the side, and then I'll eat my vegetables. Or I'll have those two motifs done so that I can do a little bit of over one and then maybe jump around. I don't generally do that, but if the over one ends up being like too much for me, we will see. Maybe it'll be easy. We'll see. Anyways, I do want to not leave that to the end though, because I'm not a glutton for punishment. But yeah, oh man, I'm so touched. I'm so happy to be doing this. Also, like, there's this cardstock, the first and last pages, and she has a whole lot of information, which I love. Also, like, it tells a little bit the story of how she came about getting this sampler and what it means to her and everything. So it just seems very personal and it's beautiful. And, you know, hopefully I get to meet Leanne one day. Maybe I'll just like show up at Upper Canada Village and be like, hey, I know who you are. Would that be weird? Maybe I would give her a heads up first. I don't know. I'd also need to get a ride from one of my parents. But they love Upper Canada Village. Upper Canada Village is like my mom's favorite place in the whole entire world. So, one last time. Here is the kit. You can't even see half the colors because there's so many of them. Oh, this color here is super cool. It's called Early Harvest. And, you know, on camera, who knows how well it's showing up. But it's this really pale, desaturated green, but it has like kind of like a golden, it almost like has golden shimmer to it. I don't know. It's a really cool color. So I'm excited to discover that. It's also a nice thing about getting a kit is that I've done a lot of shopping on the website where I just choose my favorite colors, and then there are really cool colors like this that I overlook. And earlier I had talked about this DMC. I was thinking about replacing it with brunette, because the DMC is fine, but the brunette is so rich and luscious. Anyways, we'll see. We will see. I have some brunette in stash already, so I'm all set there. Anyways. So that's the first exciting piece of news that I had to share. The second exciting piece of news also has to do with Evertote. And that is that I am going to Stitch North next year. I'm going to weekend 2 in May. I think it's May 2nd. Hey Siri, how many days until May 2nd, 2025? I don't know if you heard that, but it's 336 days until May 2nd, 2025, which is when I'm going to be going to Stitch North next year. Oh my goodness. Okay. I've talked to my boyfriend about this. When I look back on my life and I think of like the best things that I've ever done for myself, for just like my own soul, one of them is having gone to JacobPalooza last fall. It was my first time meeting Stitchers. It also opened the door for Flosstube and now for, you know, model stitching. And it was such an enriching experience. I definitely, even though it's been months, I'm still kind of riding that high. And recently there was another retreat hosted by Evertote about a month ago, Stitch North from this year. And I had to hardcore avoid Instagram and the internet because I had so much FOMO. I was so jealous. I wanted to be there so bad. And once I, you know, actually watched all of these things online, I was like, okay, I'm going next year. They have 1 week of Stitch North that they are hosting in the fall, and it's not sold out. So if you're interested, you should check that out. Unfortunately, I'm not available. I'm in the middle of an opera run, and as a musician, sometimes that means that you work on the weekends. So I'm often unavailable on weekends. And if I were to, I would have to miss 2 weeks of work basically to go to Stitch North in the fall, which would have been very fun. But anyways, but weekend 2 in the spring of next year does work with my schedule. So when I found out the dates, I was like, I must get on that list for weekend 2. and the the tickets were being sold. I think they opened the sale for spots at Stitch North at noon on a Monday, and I was in rehearsal till 12:30. And that's another annoying thing about being a musician, is that if I'm in rehearsal, I can't be on my phone. I can't have like a secret tab open where I just quickly buy something. Like, I have to be at rehearsal. The conductor is right in front of me. Like, there's no subtle way of sneaking a purchase right at noon. So I had opened the tab to the retreats page on my phone, and I had already pre-drafted an email to Hannah to ask to be on the waiting list should it have sold out in those first 30 minutes. And I exceptionally brought my phone on stage with me. I never do that, but I had it just, in my back pocket so that the moment the conductor said rehearsal was over, and we actually finished 5 minutes early, which was great, I whipped my phone out, I opened my, browser, already open to that page, boom, boom, boom. I got a spot in Stitch North weekend 2. Turns out I didn't have to be that stressed because I think it didn't sell out for like the whole day. But anyways, I was very paranoid, and I'm so excited. So yeah, 336 days? Only 336 more sleeps until I get to go back to Stitch North. Well, I didn't do Stitch North, but until I get to go back and, see all of the people. And I mean, when I did JacobPalooza, the only people selling things was, the Roxy line and Evertote. But yeah, I guess at Stitch North, there's like, it's more of like a marketplace. You have a lot of different sellers, so it'll be fun. And then also there will be a lot more people there, so I will meet a lot more people. And I'm already kind of getting social anxiety, but it's gonna be fun. And I hope to meet lots of people. Are you going to Stitch North? Let me know. Weekend 2 is sold out, but you can get on a wait list by emailing Hannah. And I don't know if weekend 1 still has spots. It did a little while ago. It might still be open. But yeah, there's definitely still spots in the fall. So if I have one like word of advice for people who are watching Flosstube and maybe don't have any stitchy friends and would like to have some, it is to go to retreat. It can be a big investment depending on where you live and where the retreat is and whether or not you decide to splurge on tons of shopping. But if you happen to be in the Toronto area, or even if you aren't and you're just like in Canada somewhere, you should, it's just a good time. And it's a great experience, something really unique. And yeah, what I was saying to my boyfriend is that going to that retreat is one of the best things that I have ever done for myself. Like, it was a bit of a money investment, but so worth it. I'm so glad I did that, and I'm so excited to go back. Anyways, so that is everything for plans and news. A lot of it has to do with Evertote, but yes, okay. So I'm gonna take a quick break because I'm getting parched, but then when I come back, I will talk about my haul. Okay, I'm back. I drank some water, I refilled my bottle, hydrated and ready to talk about all the money I spent. Okay, so I placed a few orders to a few different places, and I was just talking about Evertote, so we're just gonna start with Evertote. So I placed an order not too long ago, and I made 2 conversions for 2 different projects that I would like to share with you now. So the first of the 2 that I'd like to talk about is this chart, Strawberry Manor by Theresa Kogut. And just side note, Theresa Kogut is prolific. I feel like I look away for 30 seconds and then I turn back and there's like 6 new designs out. I don't know how she does it, but man, what a talent. Very, very quick and efficient. And I think she's like only been in the cross stitch game for 2-3 years or something. Anyways, so I really love this project, and when I saw it, I thought it was a very good candidate for Roxy Floss, because Roxy Floss has really good depth of color and a lot of really nice brights. And so I came up with this conversion based mostly on the cover model, not so much the called for. It's like the called for is like 2/3 DMC and then some Weeks Dye Works. But yeah, I I made this conversion myself based on what I was looking for. I wanted, especially for the reds, I had a really specific idea of what I wanted. So this bright red is super cool. It's called 11 Points More, and it is the brightest, juiciest red in the world without being pink. And there are 2 reds in this chart. You can especially see that in the strawberries. And I wanted a lot of contrast, but 2 really rich reds. So I'm really happy with this 11 Points More. And then the darker red, I chose Fallow Red, which is, I think, it's my favorite red in the Roxy line. And it might be my favorite color in the Roxy line. I think it is just so luscious. It's the red that I used in the red house here, which I actually find this color to be extremely difficult to photograph and film because it's so rich and deep that sometimes it looks like black in pictures and stuff. It's much more beautiful in real life than it is on camera, trust me. Anyways, but there's lots of contrast there, so I'm really happy with that. And then some other really interesting colors. Actually, this Goody Blue shoes. This is my little stash that I have for Quilter's Dream, but this, whenever I'm finished with that, I'm gonna add this to here too. So that's also part of the conversion that I made. Now, I mean, I'm gonna start stitching this and then we'll see if things get changed around. I had also bought Pepita as a linen, but in the end I decided not to go with it because I just think it's maybe a little bit too dark. It is a gorgeous linen though, and I will be happy to use this for future projects. I'm happy to have that in stash. But I ended up, I wanted a green ground for this because in the model it's kind of green and I really like how that looks. So I ended up going with Parchment by Fiber on a Whim, which is actually, it is the fat quarter that I cut it into for this sampler. So if you can imagine, this used to be one piece. Yeah, actually this is one of the reject linens that I had bought when I was trying to find the perfect linen for GH 1857. But yeah, I measured it. It's going to be big enough. I'm just going to have a little scrap piece of linen here, but yes, that's going to be my ground for this. And okay, so strawberries, strawberries are one of those things where they're either like the best, most delicious thing in the world, or they're so bitter and unripe and gross. But where I live, we get just the most delicious strawberries. And I actually just got an email from the marketplace that I usually buy my food from, and the first strawberries of the season are going to be available next week. And a part of me was like, oh, I should coincide my start with when the strawberries are in season. But I already have 2 massive projects that I'm about to start, so maybe I'll do this one in July. But I definitely want to do this one this summer. And, you know, my colors might change around, so maybe I'm not ready to share the conversion quite yet. But whenever I am settled with what I end up stitching with, I'm happy to share that with anybody who is curious. So, yeah, when I make a conversion, I really like making conversions because I feel like it gives me a little bit of creative agency over the piece. And I like to kind of change it up a little bit. So it's still like the greens are still going to be greens, the reds are still going to be reds, but I just had something in mind that was a little bit brighter than what I was seeing on the cover model. And really that is coming from the reds. And I'm very pleased with those reds. I don't think those reds are going to change. So that's my first project that I had kitted up. And then the next project I kitted up is one that I, desperately needed to kit up because it is Lammegien pot. I talked about this quite extensively in my last Flosstube, but briefly, this is an exclusive design with De Handwerk Boutique in the Netherlands. It is a modern folk embroidery piece, and this is a reproduction sampler of a sampler that comes from my family's home province in Drenthe. It is the only Drentse sampler that I've ever come across. So there's a little bit of a personal connection there, and you can only get this at the Handwerk Boutique. I will also have that all linked below. And I knew right away when I saw the cover model that I wanted to also stitch this on Biscuit by Roxy Floss, This is the third appearance of Biscuit in this video. I think that's a perfect match. And the colors that I have gone for, I'm actually very pleased with these colors. I don't think I'm gonna change any of them. So those are the colors I've gone for. Maybe they're more visible on this side. It's not a huge color palette. I think there are 9 colors, something like that. So I'm happy to share that with anybody who wants that as well. I don't know exactly when I will stitch that, but I'm happy to have it kitted up because this is a project that means a lot to me, and I'm excited for the chance to start it when I have a gap in my stitching schedule, which is quite full at the moment. So to round off my Evertote order, I already showed you Pepita. This was their replacement for Lentil, which is now a not repeatable linen, but this is gorgeous colors. And then I also got a 1/4 yard of Schoolhouse, which is my favorite linen that Roxy Floss does. And oh, I forgot to mention. So this sampler, when I got it, I got a fat 1/4 of Schoolhouse, and there was, a couple inches of fabric left over on the bottom. And when I started Laura's Frisian sampler, I did some math and realized that the scrap fabric that I had from this was the perfect size to do this. And it is the first time in my life that I used up an entire fat 1/4 of linen with like pretty much nothing left over. And the satisfaction that that gave me, oh my goodness. Anyways, the bad news is though that I ran out of Schoolhouse, so obviously I needed to buy some more. I would have gotten a 1/2 yard, but they only had a 1/4 yard in stock. Anyway, so that's just, to add to my stash. And then I also got Gwyneth's Bouquet by Ellen Reed of Maximum Cross Stitch. This piece, maybe it's kind of weird to describe a cross stitch as being sexy, but if there is a sexy piece of cross stitch, it's this. I mean, on the black, oh my goodness, that is so luscious. So I also got the called for Night Owl. I didn't get the called for flosses. I may get that sometime in the future. I probably have a bunch of them in stash already anyways. This is not something that I think that I'll be stitching right away, but it was something that I wanted. And I've never stitched any of Ellen's pieces, but apparently, as I'm filming this, apparently she has a reproduction sampler that's being released today. So the moment I finish filming this, I'm going to be checking Evertote. It's like, I watched their Flosstube this morning. They said that they had something that was being released today. So maybe by the time I finish filming, it'll have been shared. So I'm always excited for that. Anyways, so gorgeous. I've never stitched on black linen, so we will see. Right now, I'm feeling kind of cocky, and I'm like, oh, I'm young. I can see great. I may eat my words, just like with the over one. So that's everything from Evertote. Okay, so I also got 2 books. The first one on my pile, in no particular order, just the order that it appears on my pile, is this book here, Sampled Live, Samplers from the Fitzwilliam Museum. I wish I could remember who it was, but somebody I follow on Instagram posted to their stories that they had gotten this book, and they said, get it while you can, which made me feel like, oh, it's gonna sell out, I need to buy it now, and I didn't even really know what I was buying. But anyways, this is, so the Fitzwilliam Museum, I can't remember which university it's connected to. It's one of the big UK universities. It's like their museum. And these are all English samplers, a lot of information, beautiful pictures, nice hefty book. It came in the mail from the UK in 2 days. I was very impressed. I had like domestic orders that had been 3 weeks wait. Like I got a new health card and it literally comes from my city, and I talked to the provincial health insurance people and they were like, yeah, it's in the mail. It took another 2 weeks for it to come. And then this came, like literally crossed an ocean, and it took 2 days. I don't know. FedEx. It was FedEx. That's probably why. Anyways, I'm also really happy to support something like a museum, because I feel like they are doing a lot of work in research and conservation and cataloging, things like this. So to me, this is also like a very good investment and a good place to put my money. I talked a little bit earlier about model stitching and what it means to me, and how I feel like it's my one way of contributing to the cross stitch world. And I actually think that there's another way that I would maybe want to, it's a bit of a pipe dream, but fun fact about Carmen, I did a doctorate. I didn't complete the doctorate because I got a job and I had to choose basically between my doctorate and my career. So I chose my career. So I never actually finished the doctorate. So I am not Dr. Cardamom Pins. I'm just Cardamom Pins. Anyways, but I do really love research. And I think that if I were to do something like that again, it would be in something to do with needlework, specifically Dutch samplers. Like I want to know everything about it. I want to learn everything about it. I want to discover everything about it. I want to make writing and catalog everything so that it's preserved. That is like something I'm so passionate about. I don't know even how I would begin to do that kind of work. But anyways, I started thinking about it because I know this is associated with the university and it's a museum. So very gorgeous book. I think I have many, many hours of enjoyment that I will get. Look at this Quaker. Ah, I've never stitched a Quaker. I need to do a Quaker. Anyways, gorgeous, 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 gorgeous. I don't know if any of these have been charted for reproduction, but they're just nice to look at in any case, and lots of good information. The second book I got is The Proper Stitch, A Guide to Counted Thread by Darlene Osteen. And this I learned about, again, through Caroline of Evertote. She had gone to the attic and she bought this at the attic. And this is a book, basically an instruction manual on how to do all sorts of different stitches. From the most basic, like how to start your thread and end your thread and how to do a cross. And then there's even some pulled thread stuff, satin stitch. I mean, some of the basics that I've kind of like self-taught myself how to do. But it's good to have, you know, a little bit of a, this is actually how you're supposed to be doing it. And I don't know if this is in print. Basically, Caroline has been stitching for many years, so she is a professional whose opinion I respect greatly. And she also bought it at the attic, which is an institution that I respect greatly. So I feel like it had the stamp of approval from two entities that I respect greatly. So I was like, okay, well, I guess I need to buy it then. And I found it on Amazon. I think it was like $100 or something. And I was just like, ugh. But then I found it secondhand on Etsy for way less than that. I will say that the shipping was more expensive than the book itself, which always hurts a little bit, but it was a fraction of $100. So it's still a good deal. And yeah, a good resource. I'm happy to have that. I feel like I will be referring to that maybe when I do my over one. I don't know if there's any over one specific stuff here. All right, so those are the two books. And then I was starting my smalls here, and I had gotten some quilting fabric at the end of last year with these in mind, as well as some other smalls. So I have some fabric that I can use, but I don't have any other finishing stuff. So then I looked on Etsy, and once again, Hollis Hands Creates came in clutch. I was looking for chenille specifically, and I ended up getting 3 chenilles, but because it's international, she's in the United States, I always have to pay a bit in shipping, so then it's like, well, I might as well make it worth it by getting a bunch of charts. Anyway, so these are the chenilles that I'm gonna see if, I feel like the baby blue is maybe a little bit too, it could work. I don't know. I have a few options here for chenille. I didn't realize that this is like a teeny tiny little baby chenille. We'll see. I've never worked with any of this stuff, so we'll see. And then I also got these buttons, which I think I added to my cart by accident. Anyways, I'm happy to have them. They're little sheep. Very cute. I need more buttons in my life. I might go to the thrift store and look for buttons. Anyways, and then I got a whole pile of charts, and some of them, I'm not gonna lie, I kind of forgot that I ordered them until I picked them up for this video. Okay, so what shall I start with? I will start with Pinebury Lane. I love Pinebury Lane. They have such a specific way of doing like faces. They're always like really long. It's really cute. So I'd seen this before. I like this a lot, so I got it. It's a small. And then I got this as well. Pumpkin Lane by Pinebury Lane. And you're learning so much about me today. Here's another fun fact about Carmen. I don't like Halloween. I know that's kind of an unpopular opinion, and people love Halloween. I find the aesthetics of Halloween to be kind of ugly, and I feel like it also like eclipses fall, and fall is so wonderful, and the colors and the food and the smells and the coziness, and then Halloween comes and like makes it ugly. Sorry, this is my opinion. I don't want to offend anybody. It's just not for me. Like skeletons, dead bodies, monsters, not my thing. However, I thought this was really cute, and this might be like the only Halloween thing that I ever stitch. But it's not even like super Halloween-y. I mean, it's pumpkins, they have a witch's hat, but other than that, it's Halloween light. It's not spooky, it's spoopy. You know what I mean? So, those are the 2 pine brie lanes I got. I didn't take them out of the plastic, I'm sorry. I think I just had a little bit too much on my table here and I didn't want to get everything all mixed up. And then there are a couple of charts that I got that I've had my eye on for a long time, and I don't think that these are necessarily going to go out of print, but I feel like with charts, if you see something you like, you should just kind of get it if you can, you know, afford it and it's a good investment for you, because these things do go out of these things do go out of print sometimes, and with fibers, I feel like you can find dupes in the future if ever something doesn't exist anymore or the dye lots have changed. But with charts, like, you can't really find a dupe of a chart. So my philosophy is, if there's one thing to like spend your money on and invest in, it's charts. So there are 3 here that, I mean, they're quite popular, so I don't really think they're gonna go out of print. But here's one, Sarah Stewart Hardiman, aka the Damn Grass Sampler. If you know, you know. Brenda. Anyways, so that's a really cool one. This would pair really nicely with Anne Rayner, many people's unicorn chart, long out of print. Anyways, but this is very similar, so good. I guess it kind of is a dupe for Anne Rayner. So I love that. Sarah Stewart Hardiman by, oh, who is this by actually? Needlework Press. Oh my goodness, that's embarrassing. Needlework Press. The Damn Grass Sampler. So that's one. Oh my goodness, where am I going to put all this stuff? Okay, I'll put it here. The next one is from the Scarlet House Floral Motif Sampler. This is definitely a fan favorite. I'm sure you've all seen it before. Sorry about the plastic. I think this is kind of okay. And you've seen this before. You know what this looks like. And I think a lot of people really, really enjoy stitching this one. I've heard that many times, so I got that. And then the last one, of course, Rachel Howells by the Scarlet House once again. That border, oh my goodness. You know what, this one I'm taking out of the plastic. Like, look at that border. Just the border alone. Oh, I love this. It's weird, this one really grew on me. I remember when I first saw it on Flosstube, I was kind of like, meh. And then you see it again, and it's like, oh, actually, it's nice. And then you see it the 3rd time, it's like, I think I like it. And then, you know, by the 10th time, it's like, why haven't I bought this yet? So I now have Rachel Howells. She is part of my collection of charts. No idea when I will have time to stitch that. Ugh, there's so many things I want to stitch in my life, and I know I'm young, but still, I have a finite number of days, and there's so many good things coming out all the time. And like, this has been out for years, but like, when am I gonna stitch it all? See, this is why I'm like kicking myself for stopping cross-stitching years ago, because, you know, maybe I would have had this stitched 5 years ago if I hadn't stopped. Anyways, I'm stitching again now. Okay, I got 2 Blackbird Designs pieces. This is a re-release that I think a lot of people were really happy about. This was one of their, was it Loose Feathers from years ago? Winter Wonderland. I love how the green changes. That border is so interesting. And I want to stitch this like soon. Maybe I'll do this in December of this year. Anyways, very nice. Oh, does it? Hey, it like folds out. Anyways, okay, didn't realize that. Hadn't actually opened it. So that's my first Blackbird that I got, and then the other one, I believe this is a new release. A little bit of spring. This was from, I believe it's from Market. So, and I've seen a lot of people have bought this for good reason. It's gorgeous. Gorgeous. Those great colors. Blackbird. We love Blackbird. We all love Blackbird. Okay, so I've been really digging smalls recently. So of course I had to get Brenda Gervais, keeper of the pins. I know some people who have stitched all of these and I kind of want to do that. And this is the reason why I sort of want to go shopping for buttons, is because you need buttons for this. Look how cute. I love Brenda Gervais. Brenda Gervais is one of the designers who I want to say is one of my favorites, but I've never actually stitched any of her stuff. That's the thing when you're a monogamous stitcher and you pretty much just do one thing at a time. It means that there are things like this that you want to do that you're like, well, I'll wait, and then you just don't get to them. Anyways, I need to do a Brenda Gervais at some point because I love her voice as a designer. Oh, okay, the next two I actually have charts that I already have that I want to pull out. 1 second. Okay, I'm back. So the first one, Floral Etchings 2. I got Floral Etchings 1 last year, and I feel like these are great charts for kind of a stash busting because I feel like you could totally change all of these colors and it would be totally fine. Like, I have no desire to spend money on whatever the called for is. I mean, I probably have some of the called for, but you could change these colors and it would totally work. And they're modern, and I love that block print look to them. And I hope that there are many more floral etchings to come in the future because I think these are gorgeous and a great way of just like pulling your favorite colors out of your stash and making something that you love. Again, making your own conversions. You should try it. It's great. So this is the new one. And then the last chart that I bought, MA 1853 by Needlework Press. And the reason why I wanted to pull something out of stash before I showed you is that when I saw this, I actually confused it for a different piece. I thought it was Birds of a Feather, because wouldn't those look so nice together? Okay, how do I center this? I feel like these two pieces really complement each other. Like, I would want to stitch these at the same time or have them framed next to each other. Of course, they're different charts, different designers, but they have those big red flowers coming out the sides. And yeah, Sarah Stitchy Spot has finished this recently. She's done a whole bunch of finishes recently. Man, I've also mentioned her, what, 3 times in this video? Can you tell I'm a fan of Sarah? She's just like the nicest woman in the world. I want to be more like Sarah. Anyways, so this was the last thing that I bought. And I just wanted to show it with the Blackbird piece as well, because I feel like they're meant for each other. So that's everything I got from Hollis Hands Creates. So I recently went home to visit some family. I was there for like 24 hours, but while I was there, I really wanted to get my mom set up with something that she had kitted up in the Netherlands when we were there, Tudor Goat. She bought a light with a magnifier because she needed a little bit of magnification, and I taught her how to stitch on linen. She'd only ever stitched one time, and it was on perforated paper. So my mom, she's killing it, she's loving it, and I have successfully converted somebody to cross stitch, which is fabulous. Anyways, but when we were at the store picking up everything that she needed, I saw this and I wanted it. So Lila Studio, actually I'm not sure if it's Lila or Lila. I've heard both. Maybe somebody can let me know in the comments if it's Lila or Lila. I really like to pronounce people's names correctly, but I'm just a little confused about her name because I've heard both a lot. Anyways, she also, just like Stacy Nash, will sell a lot of her charts as PDFs on Etsy. And she has a sampler, I forget what it's called, but I'll have it on screen, that I've had my eye on. And then I found out that she had this small, which takes motifs from that sampler. And what really drew me to that sampler was the color palette. And so when I saw that there was a small, it was like, okay, well, there's so many things that I want to stitch. So if I'm being given an out by being able to stitch that beautiful sampler but in mini version, I'm gonna take it. However, she didn't have the small as a PDF on her Etsy. She just had the whole sampler. So I was looking online for it, but then I had to pay shipping. Anyway, so when I was at the store with my mom and I saw this, I was like, oh, I'm getting it. And then she grabbed it from my hand and she's like, no, I'm getting it for you. So thanks, Mom. Thank you for this. Anyways, so no idea when I'll get to that. So I have one more shop that I placed an order from. I didn't spend any money on cross stitch for the first 4 months of the year, and then this month it all came out. It all came out at once. So the last order that came in the mail just yesterday is from Vera's Stitchy Corner, and Vera is really cool. I think Vera is super cool. So she dyes fibers like linen and floss, and I think even weave and Ada as well, using natural dyes. And I think some of the dyes she makes them herself. And she's really cool to follow on Instagram because she will share her stories, some of her process sometimes. She also does a lot of stitching. And so I got some floss and some linen from her. I'd gotten floss from her before, but this is my first time getting some of her linen. But I'll start with the floss. So, well, this one was a gift. I think every month she has a different gift. So this is called Twisted Weld. But I had ordered these 3, which are all dyed with marigold. And I don't have a lot of yellow in my stash, so I'm really happy to have these. So this one is called Marigold. This one is called a Zesty Marigold. And the last one is Ivy Marigold. I don't know what she does to make them all a little bit different, but they look great together. These are gorgeous, gorgeous colors. And actually her little freebie sort of completes the set because it's also a yellow. So that's really cool. And then I got 2 pieces of linen, and I will stick with the marigold theme for starters. Look at this luscious, gorgeous color. I want my whole wardrobe to be this color. This is so beautiful. So this is also dyed with marigold, and it is a one of a kind. However, when I bought it, which was not very long ago, there was still some in stock. So of course I will have that linked in my description, but my goodness, this is gonna have to be for a very special project because it is a one of a kind, so I don't know if she'll be able to make it again. So this is like, I don't want to hoard my stash, but I have a feeling that I'm not gonna want to use this because it's just too pretty. But yeah, something autumnal with like really rich orangey reds on it. Oh, this is so pretty. Oh, I love it, I love it, I love it. So yeah, so these are, you know, all the marigolds. Funny how marigold can yield all of these different kinds of yellows. And then the other piece of linen that I got, which is actually the last piece of haul that I'm going to show, is a kind of an army green. It is called Smoky Pomegranate. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe that she names her products not so much based on the color that they create, but on the material that she uses to dye them. So when I think of pomegranate, this is not the color that comes to mind, but I guess she used pomegranate to dye this piece of linen, which is crazy that pomegranate would make this like army green color. That's so cool. Anyways, as I mentioned, I think Vera is super cool, and maybe I'll get to meet her one day. We'll see. Anyways, and yeah, it has a bunch of modeling in it. So these are all of the, actually they all look really nice together. This darker yellow sort of ties it in. Anyways, so that is everything that I bought. And that's kind of where I'm gonna start to wrap up this video. I don't have any knitting to show you today. I actually kind of intentionally stopped knitting because I was starting to get like a little bit of tiredness and soreness in my wrist. And as a musician, that is like a big danger, no, because you don't want to get injured. I do a lot of like fine motor stuff, so I feel any sort of pain or tiredness and it's like, nope, stop, we're done. I know people who've had like career-ending injuries like tendonitis and arthritis and repetitive strain injury and like dystonia and stuff. So anyways, if I can avoid hurting myself, I will do that. I do have some finished objects that I could show you, but I feel like this video is long enough. And you know, I'm really into stitching these days. So I'll show that stuff in another video when I'm back to knitting. But that's kind of it for what I'm going to show you. I do also just want to briefly mention, 2 videos ago I mentioned that my grandmother had passed away, and I got some really kind comments, and I didn't actually answer anybody's. I really want to get myself to sit down and spend a little bit of time and, like, at the very least heart people's comments from my last few videos. I don't know why, but responding to comments gives me a little bit of anxiety. But I would really like to get over that, because I know I really appreciate getting comments, and I also really appreciate when people like respond and reply to my comments when I comment on other people. So I do really want to do that. I don't want to seem ungrateful. I just, for some reason, it like stresses me out, which is irrational, and I should just, I think that once I start answering comments, it's just gonna come out. Anyways, I have a lot of gratitude for nothing but kind words that I have gotten since the very beginning, really, but especially since my grandma passed away. That was very touching to also hear some of your stories and your experiences with elderly people in your life. And you know, they're all very special, and we should give them as much love as we possibly can for as long as we possibly can. So I just wanted to acknowledge that and thank all of the people who have been so kind and patient with me for not you know, actually acknowledging anybody's kind comments. Sorry about that. I hope to change that. That is something that I would really like to do. Anyways, with that, I think I'm finally ready to wrap it up. Not sure how long this video is, because I did it in a couple of different clips, but probably plenty long. And don't know exactly when I'll be back, but I will have a few new starts, definitely one finish for you then. So I'm looking forward to all of this stitching that I have in my future, and also just continuing to be a part of this community. And don't you forget, 336 more days until Stitch North Weekend 2 next spring. Okay, with that, I wish you a very happy stitching future, and I'll see you when I see you. Pretty soon, probably. Okay, bye!